Law of One. Don Elkins. This book is an exact transcript from tape recordings of 26 sessions of an experiment designed to communicate with an extraterrestrial being called Ra. We started the experiment in 1962 and refined the process for 19 years. In 1981, the experimental results of our efforts changed profoundly in quality and precision. This book is simply a report of the beginning of this latter phase of our work. The One Infinite Creator. The Law of One states that there is only one, and that one is the Infinite Creator, which calls infinite intelligence and intelligent infinity. It is impossible to describe the one undifferentiated intelligent infinity, unpolarized, full and whole, but it can be activated or potentiated. Each portion of the creation contains, paradoxically, the whole. Illusion. Since all is one, all manifestation, or appearance of manyness, is an illusion. It is an illusion carefully engineered in order to give the Creator the opportunity to know itself. Distortion. The terms, distortion is anything that moves away from undistorted unity. This can be either what we would consider good, distortion toward love, or bad, distortion towards ill health. There are three fundamental distortions of infinite intelligence. The first distortion. The first distortion is free will, or finity, or the limit of the viewpoint. The created universe that we experience is the Creator's exploration of itself through the first distortion, which Ra also calls the law of confusion. The second distortion. The second distortion is love, or the logos, or the creative principle. It is the focus, the choice of attack, the type of energy of an extremely, shall we say, high order which causes intelligent energy to be formed from the potential of intelligent infinity in just that. A logos can create a single star system, or it can create a galaxy with billions of star systems. Each galaxy has its own system of natural laws and, I believe, its own cosmic mind. Ra says that some of its members have wandered to the creations of other logoi, and that experience has been one which staggers the intellectual and intuitive capacities of galactic systems. The first physical manifestation of a logos is a cluster of central systems. The third distortion. The third distortion is light. It is the first manifestation visible to the eye. Light is intelligent, full of energy, and the building block of what we call matter. Light's characteristics include the infinite whole paradoxically described by the straight line. Ra says that this paradox is responsible for the shape of the various physical illusion entities you call solar systems, galaxies, and planets, all revolving and tending towards Zot. Light energy has an upward spiraling characteristic which impels evolution. Sublogoi. Our galaxy was created by a single logos, and our sun is a sublogos of that logos. A sublogos individualizes or differentiates the natural laws set up by its logos. It also refines the cosmic mind into its specific archetypical mind, informed by the experience of earlier sublogoi. Sublogoi. Humans are an example of sublogois. Densities. The creation has 7 levels, or densities, the 8th density forming the first density of the next octave of experience, just as the 8th note of a musical scale begins a new octave. Between 7th and 8th densities the creation re-emerges in a period of timeless, formless unity with the Creator. It is Ra's understanding that the ways of the octave are without time, that is, there are 7 densities in each creation infinitely. They point out, though, that the limits of their knowledge are narrow. First density is the density of awareness, in which the planet moves out of the timeless state into physical manifestation. Its elements are earth, air, water, and fire. On Earth, after matter had coalesced and space, time had begun to unroll its scroll of livingness. First density took about 2 billion years. Second density is the density of growth, in which what we call biological life emerges and evolves into greater and greater complexity. Second density on Earth took about 4.6 billion years. Third density is the density of self-awareness and the first density of consciousness of the spirit. It is the axis upon which the creation turns because in it entities choose the way, either service to others or service to self, in which they will further their evolution toward the Creator. Third density is much shorter than the other densities, taking only 75,000 years. Fourth density is the density of love or understanding. Those who have successfully chosen a path come together with others of like mind in what Ra calls a social memory complex in order to pursue that path, either loving self or loving others. Fourth density lasts approximately 30 million years, fourth density lifespans are approximately 90,000 years. Fifth density is the density of light or wisdom. Lessons are often learned individually rather than as a social memory complex. Fifth density entities are beautiful, by our standards, because they can consciously shape their physical forms. Sixth density is the density of unity, in which love and wisdom are blended together. The two paths reunite as those on the service to self path, realizing that they cannot successfully master the lessons of unity without opening their hearts to others, switch their polarity to positive. Ra is sixth density, their sixth density cycle is 75 million years. Seventh density is the gateway density, in which we once again become one with all. It is a density of completion and the turning towards timelessness or for. Eighth density is also the beginning of the first density of the next creation. It is both Omega and Alpha, the spiritual mass of the infinite universes becoming one central sun or creator once again. Then is born a new universe, a new infinity, a new logos which incorporates all that the Creator has experienced. Some Q&A. Questioner: I think this might be an appropriate time to include a little more background on yourself, possibly information having to do with where you came from prior to your involvement with planet Earth, if this is possible. Ra, with the social memory complex of which I am a part. One of those who voyaged outward from another planet within your own solar system, as this entity would call it. The planetary influence was that you call Venus. We are a race old in your measures. When we were at the sixth dimension, our physical beings were what you would call golden. We were tall and somewhat delicate. Our physical body complex covering, which you call the integument, had a golden luster. In this form we decided to come among your peoples. Your peoples at that time were much unlike us in physical appearance, as you might call it. We, thus, did not mix well with the population and were obviously other than they. Thus, our visit was relatively short, for we found ourselves in the hypocritical position of being acclaimed as other than your other selves. This was the time during which we built the structures in which you show interest. Questioner: how did you journey from Venus to this planet? Ra: we used thought. Questioner: would it have been possible to have taken one of the people of this planet at that time and placed him on Venus? Would he have survived? Were conditions on Venus hospitable? Ra: the third density conditions are not hospitable to the life forms of your peoples. The fifth and sixth dimensions of that planetary sphere are quite conducive to growing/learning/teaching. Questioner: how were you able to make the transition from Venus? Did you have to change your dimension to walk upon the Earth? Ra: you will remember the exercise of the wind. The dissolution into nothingness is the dissolution into unity, for there is no nothingness. From the sixth dimension, we are capable of manipulating, by thought, the intelligent infinity present in each particle of light or distorted light so that we were able to clothe ourselves in a replica visible in the third density of our mind/body/spirit complexes in the sixth density. We were allowed this experiment by the council which guards this planet. Questioner: where is this council located? Ra: this council is located in the octave, or eighth dimension, of the planet Saturn, taking its place in an area which you understand in third dimension terms as the rings. Questioner: are there any people such as you find on Earth on any of the Other planets in our solar system. Ra, do you request space, time present information or space, time continuum information? Questioner, both. Ra, at one time, space, in what is your past, there was a population of third density beings upon a planet which dwelt within your solar system. There are various names by which this planet has been named. The vibratory sound complex most usually used by your peoples is Maldek. These entities, destroying their planetary sphere, thus were forced to find room for themselves upon this third density, which is the only one in your solar system at their time, space present, which was hospitable and capable of offering the lessons necessary to decrease their mind/body/spirit distortions. With respect to the law of one. Questioner, how did they come here? Ra, they came through the process of harvest and were incarnated through the processes of incarnation from your higher spheres within this density. Questioner, how long ago did this happen? Ra, this occurred approximately 500,000 of your years ago. Questioner, is all of the Earth's human population then originally from Maldek? Ra, the ones who were harvested to your sphere from the sphere known before its dissolution as other names, but to your peoples as Maldek. Incarnated, many within your Earth's surface rather than upon it. The population of your planet contains many various groups harvested from other second dimension and cycled third dimension spheres. You are not all one race or background of beginning. The experience you share is unique to this time, space continuum. Questioner, I think that it would be appropriate to discover how the law of one acts in this transfer of beings to our planet and the action of harvest. Ra, the law of one states simply that all things are one, that all beings are one. There are certain behaviors and thought forms consonant with the understanding and practice of this law. Those who, finishing a cycle of experience, demonstrate grades of distortion of that understanding of thought and action will be separated by their own choice into the vibratory distortion most comfortable to their mind/body/spirit complexes. This process is guarded or watched by those nurturing beings who, being very close to the law of one in their distortions, nevertheless, move towards active service. Thus, the illusion is created of light, or more properly but less understandably, light, love. This is in varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex of each harvested entity moves along the line of light until the light grows too glaring, at which time the entity stops. This entity may have barely reached third density or may be very, very close to the ending of the third density light, love distortion vibratory complex. Nevertheless, those who fall within this octave of intensifying light, love then experience a major cycle during which there are opportunities for the discovery of the distortions which are inherent in each entity and, therefore, the lessening of these distortions. Questioner, what is the length, in our years, of one of these cycles? Ra, one major cycle is approximately 25,000 of your years. There are 3 cycles of this nature during which those who have progressed may be harvested at the end of 3 major cycles. That is, approximately between 75 and 76,000 of your years. All are harvested regardless of their progress, for during that time the planet itself has moved through the useful part of that dimension and begins to cease being useful for the lower levels of vibration within that density. Questioner, what is the position of this planet with respect to the progression of cycles at this time? Ra, this sphere is at this time in 4th dimension vibration. Its material is quite confused due to the society memory complexes embedded in its consciousness. It has not made an easy transition to the vibrations which beckon. Therefore, it will be fetched with some inconvenience. Questioner, is this inconvenience imminent within a few years? This inconvenience, or disharmonious vibratory complex, has begun several of your years in your past. It shall continue unabated for a period of approximately 30 of your years. Questioner: after this period of 30 years I am assuming that this will be a fourth density planet. Is this correct? This is so. Questioner: is it possible to estimate what % of the present population will inhabit the fourth density planet? The harvesting is not yet, thus, estimation is meaningless. Questioner: does the fact that we are in this transition period now have anything to do with the reason that you have made your information available to the population? We have walked among your people. We remember. We remember sorrow, have seen much. We have searched for an instrument of the proper parameters of distortion in mind/body/spirit complex and supporting and understanding of mind/body/spirit complexes to accept this information with minimal distortion and maximal desire to serve for some of your years. The answer, in short, is yes. However, we wished you to know that in our memory we thank you. Questioner: the disc-shaped craft that we call UFOs, some have been said to have come from the planet Venus. Would any of these be your craft? We have used crystals for many purposes. The craft of which you speak have not been used by us in your space, time present memory complex. However, we have used crystals and the bell shape in the past of your illusion. Questioner: how many years in the past did you use the bell-shaped craft to come to Earth? We visited your peoples 18,000 of your years ago and did not land again 11,000 years ago. Questioner: photographs of bell-shaped craft and reports of contact of such from Venus exist from less than 30 years ago. Do you have any knowledge of these reports? We have knowledge of oneness with these forays of your time, space present. We are no longer of Venus. However, there are thought forms created among your peoples from our time of walking among you. The memory and thought forms created, therefore, are a part of your society memory complex. This mass consciousness, as you may call it, creates the experience once more for those who request such experience. The present Venus population is no longer sixth density. Questioner: do any of the UFOs presently reported at this time come from other planets, or do you have this knowledge? I am one of the members of the Confederation of Planets in the service of the Infinite Creator. There are approximately 53 civilizations, comprising approximately 500 planetary consciousness complexes in this confederation. This confederation contains those from your own planet who have attained dimensions beyond your third. It contains planetary entities within your solar system, and it contains planetary entities from other galaxies. One, it is a true confederation in that its members are not alike, but allied in service according to the law of one. Questioner: do any of them come here at this time in spacecraft? In the past, say, 30 years? Each planetary entity which wishes to appear within your third dimension of space, time distortion requests permission to break quarantine, as you may call it, and appear to your peoples. The reason and purpose for this appearance is understood and either accepted or rejected. There have been as many as 15 of the Confederation entities in your skies at any one time. The others are available to you through thought. At present there are 7 which are operating with craft in your density. Their purposes are very simple: to allow those entities of your planet to become aware of infinity, which is often best expressed to the uninformed as the mysterious or unknown. Questioner: you mentioned that there were a number of members of the Confederation of Planets. What avenues of service, or types of service, are Available to the members of the Confederation? Ra, I am assuming that you intend the service which we of the Confederation can offer, rather than the service which is available to our use. The service available for our offering to those who call us is equivalent to the square of the distortion, need of that calling divided by, or integrated with, the basic law of one in its distortion indicating the free will of those who are not aware of the unity of creation. Questioner, from this, I am assuming that the difficulty that you have in contacting this planet at this time is the mixture of people here, some being aware of the unity, and some not, and for this reason you cannot come openly or give proof of your contact. Is this correct? Ra, we must integrate all of the portions of your social memory complex in its illusory disintegration form. Then the product of this can be seen as the limit of our ability to serve. In short, you are basically correct. The thought of not being able is not a part of our basic thought form complex towards your peoples, but rather it is a maximal consideration of what is possible. Questioner, by squared, do you mean that if 10 people call you can count that, when comparing it to the planetary ratio, as 100 people, squaring 10 and getting 100? Ra, this is incorrect. The square is sequential 1, 2, 3, 4, each squared by the next number. Questioner, about how many entities at present on planet Earth are calling for your services? Ra, I am called personally by 352,000. The Confederation, in its entire spectrum of entity complexes, is called by 632 million of your mind/body/spirit complexes. These numbers have been simplified. Questioner, at what point would this calling be great enough for you to come openly among the people on Earth? How many entities on Earth would have to call the Confederation? Ra, we do not calculate the possibility of coming among your peoples by the numbers of calling, but by a consensus among an entire societal memory complex which has become aware of the infinite consciousness of all things. This has been possible among your peoples only in isolated instances. In the case wherein a social memory complex which is a servant of the Creator sees this situation and has an idea for the appropriate aid which can only be done among your peoples, the social memory complex desiring this project lays it before the Council of Saturn. If it is approved, quarantine is lifted. Questioner, I have a question about that council. Who are the members? And how does the council function? Ra, the members of the council are representatives from the Confederation and from those vibratory levels of your inner planes bearing responsibility for your third density. The names are not important because there are no names. Your mind/body/spirit complexes request names, and so, in many cases, the vibratory sound complexes which are consonant with the vibratory distortions of each entity are used. However, the name concept is not part of the council. If names are requested, we will attempt them. However, not all have chosen names. In number, the council that sits in constant session, though varying in its members by means of balancing, which takes place, what you would call irregularly, is 9. That is the session council. To back up this council, there are 24 entities which offer their services as requested. These entities faithfully watch and have been called guardians. The council operates by means of what you would call telepathic contact. When a need then recommends what it considers as appropriate action. This includes 1. The duty of admitting social memory complexes to the Confederation. 2. Offering aid to those who are unsure how to aid the social memory complex requesting aid. 3. Internal questions in the Council are determined. These are the prominent duties of the Council. They are, if in any doubt, able to contact the 24 who then offer consensus/judgment/thinking to the Council. The Council then may reconsider any question. Questioner, you mentioned the 9 who sit on the Council. Ra, the Council of 9 has been retained in semi-undistorted form by 2 main sources, that known in your naming, as Mark, and that known in your naming as Henry. Questioner, the names that you spoke of, were they Mark Probert and Henry Puharich? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, the Council seems to have allowed the quarantine to be lifted many times over the past 30 years. This seems to me to be a form of advertising for what we are doing right now, so that more people will be awakened. Am I correct? Ra, it will take a certain amount of untangling of conceptualization of your mental complex to reform your query into an appropriate response. Please bear with us. The Council of Saturn has not allowed the breaking of quarantine in the time-space continuum you mentioned. There is a certain amount of lending taking place. Some are of the entities known to you as the Group of Orion. Secondly, there is permission granted, not to break quarantine by dwelling among you, but to appear in thought form capacity for those who have eyes to see. You are correct in assuming that permission was granted at the time, space in which your first nuclear device was developed. Questioner, you said that Orion was the source of some of these contacts with UFOs. Can you tell me something of that contact, its purpose? Ra, consider, if you will, a simple example of intentions which are bad. Good example is Adolf Hitler. The intention is to presumably unify by choosing the distortion complex called elite and then enslaving, by various effects, those who are seen by the distortion as not elite. Questioner, what is the density of the Orion group? Ra, like the Confederation, the densities of the mass consciousnesses which comprise that group are varied. There are a very few third density, a larger number of fourth density, a similarly large number of fifth density, and very few sixth density entities comprising this. Questioner, just as a sideline, a side question here, is the physics of Dewey-Larson correct? Ra, the physics of sound vibrational complex. Dewey is a correct system as far as it is able to go. There are those things which are not included in this system. However, those coming after this particular entity, using the basic concepts of vibration and the study of vibrational distortions, will begin to understand that which you know of as gravity and those things you consider as n-dimensions. These things are necessary to be included in a more universal, shall we say, physical theory. Questioner, is Larson's idea of the progression of what he calls space, time? Is this concept correct? Ra, this concept is incorrect, as is any concept of the one intelligent infinity. This concept is correct in the context of one particular logos, natural laws and ways of expressing them mathematically and otherwise. Questioner, you said that there's further information which you'd be happy to share, but we ran out of time. Could you complete the further information on that? Ra, this information is a natural progression of inspection of the kinetic shape of your environment. You may understand each color or ray as being, as we had said, a very specific and accurate portion of intelligent energy's representation of intelligent infinity, each ray having been previously inspected in other regards. The universe in which you live is recapitulation in each part of intelligent infinity. Thus you will see the same patterns repeated in physical and metaphysical areas, the rays or portions of light being, as you surmise, those areas of what you may call the physical illusion which rotate, vibrate, or are of a nature that may be, shall we say, counted or categorized in rotation manner in space, time as described by the one known as Dewey. Some substances having various of the rays in a physical manifestation visible to the eye, this being apparent in the nature of your crystallized minerals which you count as precious, the ruby being red and so forth. Questioner, what causes the rotation so that the light condenses into our physical or chemical elements? Ra, your own universe having been well studied in an empirical fashion by those you call your scientists and having been understood or visualized, shall we say, with greater accuracy by the understandings or visualizations of the one known as Dewey. Questioner: in looking at a transcript by Henry Puharich from the Nine, I found a statement by the Nine where they say, if we get 7 times the electrical equivalent of the human body, then it would result in 7 of the mass of electricity. Could you explain this? Ra: to explain this is beyond the abilities of your language. We shall, however, make an attempt to address this concept. As you are aware, in the beginning of the creations set up by each logos, there are created the complete potentials, both electrical, in the sense of the one you call Larson, and metaphysical. This metaphysical electricity is as important in the understanding, shall we say, of this statement as is the concept of electricity. This concept, as you are aware, deals with potentiated energy. The electron has been said to have no mass but only a field. Others claim a mass of infinitesimal measure. Both are correct. The true mass of the potentiated energy is the strength of the field. This is also true metaphysically. However, in your present physical system of knowledge it is useful to take the mass number of the electron in order to do work that you may find solutions to other questions about the physical universe. In such a way, you may conveniently consider each density of being to have a greater and greater spiritual mass. The mass increases, shall we say, significantly but not greatly until the gateway density. In this density the summing up, the looking backwards, in short, all of the useful functions of polarity have been used. Therefore, the metaphysical electrical nature of the individual grows greater and greater in spiritual mass. For an analog, one may observe the work of the one known as Albert, who posits the growing to infinity of mass as this mass approaches the speed of light. Thus the 7th density being, the completed being, the creator who knows itself, accumulates mass and compacts into the one creator once again. The physics of the law of one, physical science unified with spirituality and psychology, demonstrates how powerfully everything in the universe is connected to the self, and further underscores why all things help us evolve and grow. The key is to contemplate the meanings of these nuts and bolts pieces of data so we can develop holistic understanding. The SSB data can be just a strange fact, or it can be a powerful tool for understanding ourselves. The choice is ours to contemplate and distill the data for greater meanings.